requirements of the open meeting law. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over Lunenburg Public Access. And we have, do you have a working agenda, Barb?
Yep.
Sorry. You can have that one. Oh, that's okay. I got a special. I'm a special guy. Yeah, I'm special.
Oh, yeah.
All of you can get a copy of the special one if you want. Doesn't matter to me.
Couldn't survive without it.
All right, we have an announcement. How do you pronounce that last name? How do you pronounce that? I don't know.
Jimmy Bro.
Jimmy Bro.
Yeah.
Your retirement. Many thanks to Jimmy for all his commitment and knowledge and dedication since 2002 to our sewers. Thank you very much, Jimmy. And congratulations and enjoy retirement. That's great.
He'll be missed.
Yes. And our first appointment. Paul Casey?
Yep.
All right. Flow assessment.
So I was asked to just discuss kind of what flow assessment does, and then I can get into just about half a dozen questions. I can go through those. So flow assessment is a infiltration and inflow service provider. We typically team with engineering firms to do II study work. In some cases, we do work directly for municipalities, but primarily our work is done through an engineering firm. Typically, an II study would start with flow monitoring, and then based on those findings, recommendations by the engineering firm would lead to other study work such as flow, smoke testing, manhole investigations, flow isolation, and that sort of thing. So basically, question one regarding the calibration and the monitoring of these three locations. Good place to start, right? I do have a few documents I can leave with you pertaining to our procedure on that. I don't have enough for everybody. I have, I think, 3, but I'll hand them out and I can send you them after the fact too. But basically, as far as the field is concerned, we will come out here quarterly, every 3 months, but actually historically it's been about 5 times a year. And when our field crew pulls up on site, they do basic maintenance, which would be like a battery replacement, desiccant, because most of these sensors and meters breathe in there in wet environments, so basic maintenance things. But more importantly, what we focus on is the confirmations of the level and velocity and the flow rate. So we make a confirmation of level, we compare that to what the meter's reading, we document that. If there's any issues, we correct them, clean sensors, and then we would get measurements again before we left, making sure everything is working properly, and again, documented. So we document on arrival, how we find it. We document after we correct any issue, or if there's no issue, we document it again anyways. So in the case, a lot of these sites don't necessarily have velocity sensors because they're flumes, so basically it's a level, and the flume will generate a flow rate. I believe one site might have a velocity sensor, but it's redundant. So most of these sites have redundant sensors, so you have multiple levels and potentially one velocity. But I believe every site has at least 2 levels, so 2 different ways of confirming what is happening at these locations. And we personally do that on every site, and that's gives us that kind of backup. If something fails, it buys you a little time until you have to get there, but it also gives you that check to see if everything's operating properly. So we document everything in a program that we actually designed. It's a computer program, but I have an example that you can pass around basically of how we document each site, our field notes, and they can be a little quirky at times, but they're meant for internal use. But if you ever ask for any of them, we have them for every site visit that we've ever done. We also keep a police log. Any police detail would be in there too, just in case there's any issues with that. So all our findings would go into that program, and then we are scheduled to do monthly data analysis. So on a monthly basis, our data analysis team, which is quite extensive, and John Sokol, who's our senior data analyst, was going to be here, but jury duty stopped him from doing that. They would pretty much take our field notes, and if there were any kind of corrections, if we found the meter was, let's say, a ½ inch off, and we corrected that issue when we were there on site, the data analysis team would go back and correct that in the data. So when you log in, which anybody can have access to, that you grant access to, you can log in, and there are 3 different things you would see. You'd see the raw data as it comes in off the meters, and that's usually once a day at around midnight, and that is just raw data coming right off the meter. And then you also see preliminary data. Preliminary data is, most of these sensors will have some sort of offset. So for a number of different reasons, they would have an offset. If you want me to get into each of those reasons, I could, but
I think you're good.
okay. So the preliminary data, the offsets would come off. And then the final data is when we do the data analysis. So we'd go through the field verifications and try to pinpoint, was it a rain event? Was it one event? Was it, that this just, the level just, is it obvious? And if it is, which most cases it isn't, we would adjust from that point forward and feel very comfortable in that. Other times it's a little more subtle. But basically what we're paid to do and why we exist is that purpose.
So you can go back and kind of pinpoint when it was and adjust the
Exactly.
data from that time to current.
Exactly, and that's why people hire us. There's a lot of anomalies in data. There are a lot of variables, and things can go awry. But again, we have multiple sensors here, and what we're looking for is them all to tell us the same thing, and that we have our verifications, and basically we're just trying to build a very strong case that this is happening at this site.
Would it be okay to ask a few questions as we go?
Absolutely,
'Cause
please do.
I'll never remember them all to the end.
Sure, yeah.
You mentioned that velocity daters versus the depth sensors. I mean, what do we have in the 3 meters we have?
Sure. I have that. Well, I can pass these around to start. So, Site 3, which is Graham Street, that has, originally we put a 10-inch Palmer Bowles flume in, and that was slightly undersized. So within a few weeks, this was a long time ago.
Way back, yeah.
Within a few weeks, we changed that to a 12-inch Palmer Bowles flume. On top of that, which is a primary measuring device, that is the most accurate way to measure flow if installed properly.
Okay. And this is a height measurement
Yep,
or a
it's a-
velocity? Height.
So this would be height.
Height, okay.
Yep. So I can kind of pass this around. This is this location we're talking about. But also at this location, we have an ultrasonic sensor, which you can see right here. This is this site. At the crown of the pipe, this is the incoming, and you have an ultrasonic sensor. And then if you look at that photo, the middle photo, you can see the Palmer Bowles flume. So this level sensor and that Palmer Bowles flume give you everything you need, assuming there's not too much turbulence and it's a good site, will give you everything you need to quantify the flow.
Okay.
However, on this site, we also have another sensor. It's a pressure velocity sensor,
Okay.
and that pressure velocity sensor alone will give you the flow rate needed to quantify at that site. It has a pressure level sensor as well as a velocity, Doppler velocity sensor. The problem with that sensor at this particular site, at least at the beginning of this project, was the debris that suddenly appeared. And I installed this myself, and the debris it was fresh, it wasn't there for a while. If it's there for a while, it turns black and it's kind of muddy, but this was fresh sand at first. That problem does not exist anymore. We do not have a buildup of debris, so that is no longer an issue. I know that was a question.
Are you talking about Graham Street right now?
Graham Street, yep. So at the beginning, that pressure velocity sensor didn't really work too well. It's down in the flow, there's debris, And you can offset them and put them up away from the debris, but there's a fine line between the flows coming down at night and the sensor coming out of the water and not recording, and being buried by debris. So primarily, the sensor we use for this site is the ultrasonic and the flume. As a check, the pressure velocity is there. And it is consistent and within range of what we'd like to see. So it is a good secondary, more so now than it was to begin with. So that's Graham Street. At Summer Street?
Can I ask a question on this, or
Sure, yep.
on some of these issues down here, one of them just says whatever caused the previous problem is gone.
Mhm.
How do we, I guess my question is, how would you know?
You don't always know, yeah.
So how would you know the problem is gone if you don't know what the problem is?
So can I just see that in particular? So when we arrived, it was 1.2 is the actual, and the meters reading 1.48. So sometimes we don't, this is a different sensor right here. So basically what they did here, we do it one of two ways. It's a little confusing, but the before and after measurements. So this was before when we arrived, this was after.
So it might have, in between that between that time frame, maybe there was something wrong and then just kind of fixed itself?
Absolutely. So they pulled the sensor out, and it is I'm sorry, it's an ultrasonic, so you don't have to pull it out. So the ultrasonic, what we typically would do is change the desiccant, make sure everything's dry and things like that. You wipe the sensor clean, the face of it, and clean any kind of debris, which will always be a little bit of debris in the buildup when you have a flume, but nothing that would mess with measurements, at least at this site. And you do those things, and it's gone. Now, each one of these sites does have an issue from time to time that will pop up, because you're pretty much putting an obstruction in the flow. And with, especially more and more these days with these non-potables, it's becoming quite an issue. So you'll have rag buildups, and then they'll break free. Sometimes we'll be there, sometimes we won't. It usually happens in the middle of the night when the flows drop, and then when the flows come back up in the morning, they'll break free. And you'll see those anomalies in the raw data. We take those out.
So sometimes you'll know what the problem is and sometimes you won't.
Exactly. For the most part, you can get down to it.
'Cause this one here, the next one was unclear the why the level is so far off. Flume is level, massa bracket is solid and still level. So is that the same type of thing where the level is off, but we can kind of, there's no real obvious reason as to why?
Yep.
Okay. Is Lucas like a program?
Lucas is a data analyst, or a data analyst.
Okay.
So he, typically what we would do in this case, switch the equipment out.
Okay.
We don't own the equipment. You guys do.
Okay. Because on this it just says, according to Lucas, the offset is 20.35 inches. So I'm assuming he did some sort of data analysis to find out what the offset was?
Typically, yes. So there'll always be some sort of offset in most cases. So what we did here, you're talking about this right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with an ultrasonic, you measure from, say, the ultrasonic face to the 0 point, the bottom of the invert. So we were confirming all those measurements, make sure they were right. If they were right, we'd pretty much put an offset in that to compensate for that and correct it.
Okay.
So basically, if that was reading 1.5, we would tell the program 1.5 means 1.75. And for the most part, that's fine. I don't know that we would, we err on the side of caution. When in doubt, switch it out. That's what we kind of say.
Since we own the equipment, you can't
Since
do
you
that.
own the equipment, there's a few communities that do own their own equipment, but it does prevent us from
Switching it
just
up.
switching it out. Typically, it's best, like in Portland, Maine, they own 4 or 5 extra meters, and we switch them out when we can. So.
Just out of curiosity, the
Yeah, go
kind
ahead.
of meters we have, what sort of value are they?
If you were going to replace each site, let's see, we have an ISCO and a TELOG in each site, about $5,000 to $6,000
Per, okay.
and that's
And
you
is
could
two-
spend
and is
as
two per
much.
site, or,
I'm sorry.
and is 2 per site?
So
Redundant,
you have a telemetered meter, which is a TELOG RU33,
Yeah.
and then you have an ISCO, either 2150 or 2110. So this particular site is just an RU33. So this meter at site 2 is about, things are about to change though, $3,700. Couple sensors, about $300 to $400. That's really cheap. The meter you guys had at Graham Street before we put that meter in was an ISCO, not ISCO, it was a Sigma, a Hawk Flodar, and that was probably $17,000, $18,000 meter.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And you can spend that. You can easily spend $20,000.
So that when in doubt, switch it out thing is probably a rare occurrence, so you wouldn't necessarily do that a lot, or?
For us, I mean, we have in the springtime close to 1,000 meters out there. We constantly are switching things out, constantly, and we'll deal with it at the shop, find out what the issue is.
Yeah, okay.
Work them and put them back?
I'm sorry?
Can you rework some of the issues and put them back?
Yeah, we send things out to be fixed by the manufacturer.
It's not you're just scrapping them, you're actually getting them fixed.
Oh, yeah, yep, they'll be fixed, and we also have a lab at our office, which is a pipe that flows. We know the constant velocity, things like that, so we put it through thorough testing. It's in the winter, it's pretty slow, so that's what we do.
So one thing that could be interesting for the commission would be to see what it would cost to not own our own.
Right. Yeah, how's that usually work? So if you do the when in doubt, switch it out thing, you contact us first, or you just do it?
If you owned extra equipment, if some communities are just adamant, they want to buy equipment.
I don't think.
Honestly, it's not, you can see it. You can get the price of these meters, you can see the rental fee.
Yeah, what's
You know,
more economical
look
for
for,
towns
like-
usually? Not owning their own equipment?
It's definitely safer.
Yeah.
It's definitely safer.
Cost maybe the same?
The cost would be a little more.
Of owning or not owning?
The cost would be more not owning. Because
owning,
we
'cause you're-
would
'cause you
we would
gotta-
add a rental fee to it.
Right.
Yeah.
You're carrying the risk of the meter.
Yeah, we look for like a 3 to 4 year payback.
Yeah.
If we know the locations, which we do here, I would be comfortable stretching it to 5. I mean, these meters have been in for quite a long time with very little problems, really. I mean, except for the drunk driver. So,
Maybe we should, as a future discussion action, is to see what a proposal on just changing
and
over.
while we're talking about equipment, honestly, you can spend $20,000 on a meter at each one of these locations if you want to, and those manufacturers and the reps will tell you it's the best one. Nobody has to ever touch it, but we get calls and we have to touch them all the time.
Is there anything that's mechanical that never has to get touched?
That's what their claim to fame is. So like the Flodar, Hawk Flodar, you can actually install it from the surface. And ISCO Laser Flow, which is a much better meter. Again, you can install from the surface, but you cannot, you gotta go down there to get the measurements. So to tell it what to read, because they don't just read correct.
Everything has wear and tear.
Yeah.
You need to know.
But they're $15,000 meter, plus you would need AC power. We do have them, and if we wanted to test them, things like that, that's fine. But honestly, they're very site-specific. They sell them saying it's one, done, don't worry about the characteristics of each site, but it's not true.
But if a town wanted to not own meters, wanted to basically give flow assessment the responsibility for the meters, the accuracy, everything, and just hands off, and, we don't care whether it's $1,000 meter or $20,000 meter,
Yep.
as long as you guarantee its accuracy.
Mhm.
That,
In my opinion,
Where you
that's
work, generally?
it's much more seamless. It's much better, successful project. Not that we've had any issues here that
Yeah.
pertain to that. We really haven't. I think that we've had some minor things fixed over the years, downtime's less. We still have the ability, if something goes down, to put a meter in, and we have done it temporarily, not charged you guys, especially certain times of the year. We have plenty of inventory. So we still have the ability to put something in. Springtime, the inventory can get really slim at times.
Then when everything.
We never know what type of workload we're going to have, because budgets and trying to get funding, they don't know till the last second. So we try to keep a big inventory, but it can get down to the wire.
Thank you.
So there are a few different meters we did test on Graham Street at the beginning, and a few different locations. And throughout the history of this project, especially Graham Street, we did actually put another meter in upstream to check and compare the two and lay them over. I know that's been a site of kind of contention. So we've done, but that site has changed quite a bit too since we actually installed it. The flows have increased quite a bit. I know there's been more houses brought on or more building in the area. I don't know if it's in Graham Street. So the sites definitely have changed, and I mean, I can show you some graphs pertaining to that. So when we installed it, basically the pump station's kicking on a lot more frequently. And it can create an issue, but I honestly don't think accuracy is an issue at this location. I was going to show you. So basically, this is the flume at that site without the pump station going. That's exactly what you want to see. Nice laminar flow. It's coming across. There's a hydraulic, dips down, a hydraulic jump. When the pumps kick on, the flows get pretty high there. So this happens during every pump cycle.
Is it
and
still
the
in
pump
the-
cycles have gone.
On the weir? I can't
Yeah, you
tell.
can pass that around if you want. Yep. So that's called the throat of the flume.
And
So-
we'll place one in, which is a mini-building, mini-unit.
Oh, that's, so it did go in?
Yeah,
I knew,
since
it
you
was clear
started.
that, if you look at we're not always privy to all that information.
Yeah, and then there's a new one right above that station, or that meter,
So when we installed
luxury
this,
apartments that's going online.
when we installed this, we had about 60 peaks over a period of a 24-hour period, pump station coming on, 60 times. We're upwards of 90 at this point.
In 24 hours?
Yeah. So I know you guys have, that
20 minutes or something.
That could all be pump station upgrades or float switches, different hold times, plus the building, all those things will play. And I'm not trying to scare you or anything like that. But-
it sounds like a high number.
The flume is in a perfect spot. So it's a 12-inch flume. You are in the most ideal spot for that flume. Every flume has its sweet spot. On the low end, it's not that accurate. On the high end, it's not that accurate. But this is a properly sized flume for that location. And I can send you a graph, if you guys are interested in it. We'll show the flow and where the sweet spot is for that particular flume. That is something we look for.
So what's the max out on it? Does
On-
it have a capacity?
It definitely does, yeah.
More apartments in that area?
Yeah, you're not approaching that, but I can double check that, and we can send you a graph to show you the range. So basically, it would look like a graph like this, and this is the range for that flume, and we'll have a line here for the low and the high to kind of just show you that the majority of this flow is in.
So the calibration, so the low and the high would be the range that the
Mhm.
calibration is good for.
I mean, that's definitely something we need to keep on our mind because most of our sewerage ends up going through Graham Street.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so these are pretty much our maintenance procedures that the field guys have to use. And then on top of that, and I'll leave them for you guys, and I can give you more if you want, but this is our QA/QC of data analysis and reporting. Here kind of explains that. A lot more detail than we go over.
So obviously, it's more wear and tear on the pumps, I think, if they're coming on.
Yeah, did you upgrade that pump station or anything like that?
Dana?
Dana Street, no, we haven't.
No?
No, it's just a
regular-
lot.
Just a lot more building?
Yeah.
Yep. I can't really speak to it, but I assume that it's all within range, the pump station, or you probably would have upgraded it before you probably do a capacity analysis before all those buildings kind of came on. So you'd know that there's plenty of capacity, and maybe
Well,
not.
we
It's
just,
becoming
good
very
assumption.
common. It's becoming very common. A lot of our work the past 2 years is specifically that the town just says, listen, you got to do a capacity analysis. This is how we want it. They put it on the builder and,
Wow.
and throw it on the builder.
Point, yeah.
So, so I think that answers most of the questions for at least the equipment.
You had started with Graham, the other stations, do they also have
Sure.
velocity and height? That's the level I'm looking for.
Yep.
Or are they redundant heights, or?
So, Site 2, 30 Summer Street is, sorry. So you have a telemetry meter, 10-inch Palmer Bullis flume, and a ultrasonic sensor. So you only actually have one level sensor at this location.
One level at Summer, okay.
I'm pretty sure it had another meter at one point, probably failed, sensor, probably failed. I can go back, I'd have to look historically speaking.
Yeah, what's there
These
now
went
is
in
what's important.
2009 or 2011, maybe?
That's our smallest flow. That's it.
And I would recommend having 2 sensors on each, but it hasn't proved to be a problem at this point, though. So that's,
So it says here you do handheld velocity measurements?
if you can. If it's a flume with just an ultrasonic sensor, we can get a velocity measurement, but it wouldn't really tell us anything because the level sensor and the flume will give us the flow rate. If we get a velocity, it doesn't really tell us anything. If in Graham Street, when we do have a velocity sensor, we would compare. And we have 2 different velocity. We have a handheld velocity probe that has you just need proper coverage. You need at least 2.5, 3 inches of flow to get that measurement. But we also have a surface radar. It's a radar gun like police use,
Oh, yeah.
but it compensates for an angle because you're always on an angle. So, so if it's shallow flow, we use that. Surface velocity is a little easier to attain, but it doesn't necessarily give you a proper representation of what is happening below the surface. So a lot of times if you have a 48-inch pipe with 12 inches of flow, we'd actually have to do a velocity profile. So we would actually get a velocity here, 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 and here, and then go deeper in here, here, and here. And then all that is brought in part of the data analysis on a monthly basis. So we're not just assuming here that the velocity is 1.7 feet per second. It is in the core, but on the edges, it's actually twirling around and actually, it could be -2 way over there. So, and that's extreme, but it's not uncommon for it to vary. All these, not an issue. Small pipe, 12 inches and under, never really an issue.
And 2A?
I'm sorry?
The 2A meter?
Mass Ave.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
This site was wrecked by the drunk driver a few years back. So currently, we have,
Well, the electronics was, but I mean, the
yeah,
stuff in the
so
hole wasn't.
the meter was, the biggest part of the meter we found was about this big. We still have it, so, but I believe the sensors, I think everything was wrecked. The sensors got ripped right out because they took out the box. It was a cabinet on the side of the road.
Oh.
So everything, all the cables were just ripped out too. So I believe we had to get pretty much everything brand spanking now. They had an airlifter, and
down by
It's right at the line.
Joffrey's Restaurant.
so,
Oh, okay.
So then it was put underground.
so that is,
Godfrey.
Gotta advertise that, right?
Godfrey's.
we have a 6-inch partial flume, which is permanent. That was there from the beginning. It's partial. These other 2 flumes were actually Palmer Bullis flumes. They're both good, but for like a temporary small install, a Palmer bolus flume is definitely the way to go. This is more of a permanent type of structure. It does clear itself a little better though. But both are good, again, if installed properly. I see million-dollar structures all the time, built recently, and they don't work. You end up using a manhole somewhere else. So they just have to be installed properly.
So whose fault is that? If something's new and it's not right, who do you point at?
Contractor, probably. Yeah, we don't get involved with that. We would recommend, so we first reassess. So if we're going to use this as a billing site, we would take all the measurements, we would try to find the manufacturer, which I believe the label's there and everything. And for a power shell, you measure the throat width, and that'll tell you, there's a lookup chart. They can all vary a little bit by manufacturer, but for the most part, there's a standard lookup chart for, say, a 6-inch power shell flume. This particular site, all the equipment is in the manhole now, and it wasn't to begin with. I know one of the questions was, you guys were concerned about that. In a perfect world, I'd like to see every meter in a cabinet outside of a sewer system, which is wet and damp like a basement. This particular site, they're taking a beating I couldn't believe, but I can send these around. This is what we found about a year ago. For the most part, it's fine having equipment in a manhole. 99% of our equipment is in a manhole. This just took a beating last year by, I think, a contractor. There's concrete all over it. It was all operable. It's just not ideal. And then there's a couple pictures of how we want to see it, or how we left it. So we fixed it, not an issue. It's not uncommon. Anytime they do kind of corbel repair, it's like they almost purposely put it in spots and pack it in there. It's kind of ridiculous sometimes, but it is what it is. Nothing that was truly damaged. It's more cosmetic than anything. But your lifespan on the equipment,
Could take a hit.
it can take a hit. Sure.
Probably did take a hit.
But it's not uncommon. Yeah, the pictures are pretty ugly.
Beat up that bad. I'm sure.
But it was all operating. Most of these meters aren't much more durable than a laptop. They're more waterproof and all, and
Get better
things
shelf
like
life
that.
than a laptop, I
They
hope.
actually do.
I hope so.
Yeah.
You're not spending $15,000 for a laptop. Well, I'm not. I don't know about you guys. Good.
Yep.
You probably.
So that's,
Laptop.
So was this after the 2A work was done, or?
I'm sorry?
When was this?
This was, about a year ago.
July 18, yeah.
When the pavement, they did a lot of the work, and they just seemed to throw like bricks and cement into
Well, we got lucky. Sometimes it all just disappears when they go through. Yeah.
Itself just goes
If
away?
it's too high and they're redoing the corbel at the same time,
Stop it right off.
yeah, or they take it with them, nobody can find it, and who knows? It's not too uncommon, but
So what you're saying is we can probably get meters on the black market from people who take them.
might be able to. Guarantee it. Craigslist.
There you go.
Yep.
So the meters in there, just to simplify this, they're based on height measurements or velocity, or both?
On 2A,
On 2A,
2A is, it's a level
level sensor?
and the existing flume, partial flume, which we did make sure it was properly sized and everything.
But when you say flume, that's, the measurement is actually a height measurement?
Height measurement,
Right.
correct.
Okay, so they're both height measurements, just
Yep,
different.
so you generate a
techniques
flow rate based on level.
Based on level, right?
Yep, and that's a picture of that site, I don't know. Pass it around.
Still got mango.
So I'll have to double check since that happened. But the primary sensor there, again, would be the ultrasonic level sensor. And you only have a Telog meter there. At one point, there was a KPSI pressure transducer as a backup. I don't know if that's there anymore. I'm sure it is, but I'd have to double check on that. Again, if anything, if it was there to begin with, and no longer there, we have notes pertaining to why it's not there.
Now, you said that, so I know, I think I know, quarterly is when you come and actually physically maintain or calibrate.
Yep.
But monthly, so monthly is strictly a data
Data
review.
analysis,
Data
yeah.
analysis, and
Yep.
when you read offset or whatever, that's based on data review,
Mhm.
not going to the field. No field work at that point. on the
No,
monthly.
so in a perfect world, it would line up. We'd be in the field, we would get our measurements, the data would come back, they would do anything they needed to do, and then it would be done for the month. We are here quarterly. Do I think monthly is necessary?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. There are a lot of jobs that we do that it is monthly. I don't think it's necessary. I don't. If I did think that, I would definitely give you more confirmations and more, but honestly, I don't believe that these, I think these are pretty good sites.
Yeah, so no, it seems a good process. Okay. Thank you.
I think there's been a lot of building and a lot going on,
Yeah.
and you're trying to look at trends that have been changing for a very long time.
Mm.
But there are definitely some things we can get into here, too.
Okay, good.
That can shed some light, I think, on some of the issues. So as far as equipment is concerned, after this meeting, what I can do is come up with a full list of what is existing out there for equipment and what you purchased to begin with and what is left, I guess. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So I can clarify that. And if there's any recommendations based on those findings, I'll let you know. So is pretty good for equipment or
Thank you.
each location?
Do we get to see the downloaded data, or
Sure, yeah. So anybody on the commission, we'll give you, or anybody you want, you just let us know who, we'll give you a login and password to go to our server, our website. And you don't have to, but if you want to, you can. And what you'll see there is, and we'll walk you through it. If you're interested in that, you call us, we can do like GoToMeeting, a webinar, we'll come back down if you want. And because it can be a little, it's kind of intuitive, but it's more on the engineering side, and it can be somewhat complicated. But basically, you can go in there and do whatever you want, and you can't mess it up. You can play with numbers, you can overlap graphs, you can compare Site 2 to Site 3, you can bring them together, you can look at 3 years of data,
Wow.
you can look at it in 15-minute increments, 24 hours, you can do just about anything you want. And not mess it up. So you can see the raw data, how it comes in off the meter, and then you can see the finalized data. You compare those two, and you can see the exact changes we made, and we can justify why we made those if you ever asked.
That's cool.
We won't make a change that we can't justify.
So we can just email you and say, hey, I want to log in.
Login and password, and the best, we do have, there's a video you can watch, it's awful. We didn't put it together, the manufacturer did. And we do have like a cheat sheet that will walk you through it too, and like I said, we're more than happy to do a GoToMeeting, webinar, phone call.
Yeah, that'd probably be the easiest way to do it.
Yep. And basically, if you find out you like to see the data in a certain way that makes sense to you, we can set the report up, so every month, say you want to log in, you'll see the report the exact same way every time. It's a template setting. So everybody, sees data in a different way. Cubic feet is not mine. My brain doesn't work with cubic feet. I'm an MGD, million gallons a day, so the cubic feet is killing me. I know you convert it, but I'm like, they should just convert it to MGD. But whatever works, I've just always had my head around MGD.
You think big.
Right.
So I think we covered the debris, Graham Street.
So when you have, just the other thing on the debris, when you have some debris,
Sure.
like Graham Street did.
Yep.
What way does it drive the readings?
Good question. So we'll document that. At the beginning of this Graham Street, there was quite a lot of debris coming in. So if it gets into the well is the beginning of the flume,
Yeah.
the deepest part of it, and that's where you get your measurement. If it gets into the well, it will affect everything. If you put an inch of silt or sand, everything's off an inch. So we would document how much debris was there, and that would be taken out. And you can actually see in the data, it slowly build up.
Yeah.
That's an extreme case, half inch.
But so it looks like the flow is higher if you have.
Yes. Oh,
debris. Okay. absolutely.
absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And, we would remove it, document before and after, and then data analysis, they take that right out.
Yep, good, okay, thank you.
Now, if that was still happening and we were here quarterly, that would be tough. You'd be going back 3 months. So like I said, in a perfect world, we would be here making confirmations, data analysis would do their thing, you'd get your report, you could bill with confidence. And if we could line that up just a little bit better, I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay.
Dan Edwards helps me every month getting
know.
the data for Fitchburg, and then I go every 3 months to get it for the three. But they're very helpful, very responsive,
If
so.
you need, like I said, if you need it in any different way or,
Yep. Nope, it's working.
something that makes it a little easier for you, you can do
I
that.
actually send the report to Fitchburg with the readings, and that's how they determine the bill, so.
So this is just they give you the total for the quarter?
Total for each month, she
Oh, for
bills
each month,
monthly.
okay.
Yep. So every
Oh, that's
month I
right,
go
yeah.
in and get a total and convert it.
Yeah, if you want paper reports, we can do that. If you want it on CD, flash drive, if you'd like to get it yourself or email, we can do any of these things.
So far,
Okay, the debris. So it does, the debris would affect the readings, but it would be taken out and corrected, data analysis based on our findings. Yes, we do get data before and after we clean, document it all. Adjustments are not made pretty much after our initial findings in the field. It would be adjusted within a week or two of that from the data analysis, but they don't just go in there and change something.
Yep.
There are offsets put into place based on findings. Sometimes we put an offset in to lie to the meter because it drops below an inch, and some sensors, not particular this case, stop reading a velocity. We don't want them to stop, and they interpolate it and put a velocity they think should be there based on a slope. We don't ever want that. We want to see what's actually happening there. We'd rather have dropouts and intermittent data than that, because that's inaccurate. So we would lie to it, tell it 10 inches or 11 inches, and that would mean one inch. So it wouldn't stop recording a velocity. Again, we didn't do that here, though, but that's just one case why we would have an offset. And there are a lot of different instances. But secondary sensors, pressure transducers, they don't like to be dry, and sometimes they will be dry. So, and they could float looking for but we never use a pressure transducer as a primary sensor. It would more or less always be a backup. I don't think you have KPSIs here at all. But again, I'll give you a thorough inventory later this week. So debris is really no longer an issue at Graham Street, but at times, like I said, flumes, they will collect, and you'll get anomalies. You'll get a little spike in the data, easily explainable, and then it'll free itself. Sometimes we arrive, and there will be a small backup, and it's usually non-potables, baby wipes, things like that, 9 times out of 10. We put these flumes in, and they're all installed in a permanent kind of fashion. We can get them out pretty easy, clean, but they're concreted in. There's no sharp edges to hang on anything. Those just create problems for us. We get rid of them. We make these so they're not issues. Accuracy. So a manufacturer will tell you in a lab setting about 5% accuracy. It's more like 10%. And that is assuming you find a very, very good site. Every site's different. There's always a bunch of variables that you have to overcome. We typically would choose the right equipment for the characteristics of that site. These being intermunicipal billing, flumes made the most sense. But we did, at the beginning, like I said, we did test out a few at Graham Street before. If we're uncertain, we do a test. And again, we would, if we owned the equipment, we would switch it out. If you owned it and we weren't too sure, we would do a test, and that's what we did do. One manhole up from Graham Street. And we did that again sometime a few years,
Yeah, I remember.
2 years ago. So honestly, and John, our senior data analyst, he could speak much more to the accuracy of each of these locations when you take into the characteristics of these sites. But we've been over this with a fine tooth the last couple of days, and they're the best you're gonna get. And they're pretty good. There's a lot worse out there. Nothing's perfect, but I think you very easily build a strong case that these meters are running as they should, intended.
When you say 10% is maybe...
That's what I would say.
a number, is that, given the way the measurements are made and the structures and so forth, is that a plus or minus 10%, or is it more favor the plus side?
It's a good question. Every site's different. You really have to take the site.
I'm trying to think of
So Graham
areas
Street-
created that would create negatives.
It's
and
not, so there's not a 20% swing. In some cases there would be, but honestly, we would tell you, this it's beyond our comfort level. You gotta do something else here. The site, Graham Street has changed quite a bit with those pump cycles, and with that on, off, the flows going up and down, we definitely had to look at it a different way as that happened. So when we do come out here, it's a lot different than when we initially came out here. Now we more or less, and this, we don't love doing this because we don't understand the pump cycles and we don't know how much hold time's in a pipe, but we set a plug upstream, one manhole, and then we go down and we zero calibrate it. You can't always do that, and that's kind of scares me at that location because the pump, you could flood out basements if there's an open pipe. So you set a plug and it backs all the flow up. You only have to go down one manhole, take your measurements, let it drain down, take your measurements, correct everything. You don't know how much hold time is. Basically, you look at the manhole, it's about 10 feet down, you look at the houses where the basements sit, you assume there's an open pipe at the closest house, and you kind of have an idea, but it's not, you don't, with these pump cycles, you don't really know. So that's what we've had to do to really get a good reading, because the pump cycles are so frequent. They don't just come on and there's a big wave. It's usually a little more gradual, and then when they shut off, again, a little more gradual. So you're trying to get a measurement, and things are changing constantly. So really, the zero calibration method is the best approach on that.
Just jump from 60 to 90
60 to 90,
pump cycles,
not all of a sudden. That was a
No,
period
no.
of,
but that's a significant jump.
87, 60 to 87. If you take, if you look at this graph, for instance, sorry, it's not in order or anything, like, these are my notes, but, so, this last one is from 2013, and that's about 60 peaks. I mean,
2013?
so we tried to take the same period, same day throughout the year, and if there was like a rain event or something, I mean, all those things play a factor in things kicking on. But the bottom line is, yeah, there's quite a bit.
So what's the measurement interval?
I'm sorry?
The measurement interval, how frequently is a measurement taken in the electronics?
We have the ability to measure, it's constantly reading,
Constantly reading, okay.
constantly
So you
reading,
get
and then
the whole curve.
Exactly.
Increase and then decrease.
Yes, but we tell it when to record a point. So it's constantly reading,
Okay.
and then it'll average over whatever we tell it. So a typical II study would do 15-minute intervals, so it's taking a measurement every minute or so, and then at that 15-minute mark, it averages them. These are intermunicipal billing. I'm almost 100% confident they should all be on 5 minutes. I will confirm that. I should know that right now, but I don't. That's what you typically, if there's any kind of pump station activity, we'd have it on 5 minutes, because you could potentially miss.
What's
Yeah,
the
right.
big jump there?
I
Incredible.
would have to look at, so really to dig into this data, you'd want to see rain, you'd want to see groundwater, you'd want to lay all these things together, and they tell you a story.
Oh, okay.
We provide data. We have the ability to do a full II study, but we don't. We team with engineers, let them do that. And other parts of the country, engineers do what we do. In New England, they typically don't. There's a few companies that do. But we're a little more efficient, a little more focused, and a little bit better at it, in my opinion. But,
Be weird if you had a different opinion.
so I can pass this around. I mean, it might be a little confusing, but basically, this is what you sent me the other day. These are the totals up top here. So this orange line was based off the report I found online from, I think, Wright Pierce,
Yeah, this is,
from 2016.
we have this one, it's, I think
Yep.
that's that.
Yep, it's the same thing, yep. So, but we added a couple things here. So basically, if you look at the totals, there's a couple anomalies there. You have one where we're almost in line with each other. Two, actually. We have 7% difference, we have a 5% difference. If you look at the groundwater gauge, which we had a hard time, this is this particular well. So if you're going to do II and you're going to compare these things, you really want a groundwater gauge, or a few of them in town. This is, I believe, this is USGS, and I think it's a manual measurement. So if you look at these two anomalies, they're the driest points in the past 3 years, 4 years.
Which two?
When the percentage is very close to each other, 5 and 7%. So the third quarter of 2016 and the third quarter of 2017. Basically, the summer months. Extremely dry period, according to the groundwater in the area. And both those months, your water usage was extremely high, which
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Lawns, I don't know if you ever go into a water ban here or anything like that, but lawns, topping off your pool, washing your car. So all that water isn't even making it back into the system. So that kind of explains that. Everything else is kind of in line. Where with, I mean, that orange line is I believe that was Wright Pierce's, right here, estimate on that report of infiltration in these areas. I found it online. It was done 2011, then updated by Wright Pierce 2016.
Oh, or
Weston Sampson.
CWMP.
Yep.
Probably, CWMP.
I don't know if you
If it was
have
done
faith
with-
in that or not, but it was out there, so we just used a few of those numbers. I assume you would, Wright Pierce is a reputable
2011 was
firm.
the metering report that Weston Sampson did.
Okay. West End Sampson, maybe?
Maybe, could have that wrong. I have it right here.
No, we finished CWMP 2010, but the report might have gotten on it, so I wasn't sure.
Wright Pierce.
Okay.
So it's in line with their estimates on that orange line. So this is, I'll pass that around. I highlighted the orange line here, and that's roughly what the estimates should be. The blue line, these are totals of all three sites. The blue line is your average, your low, your average low. And the red line is your average high. So the blue line, pretty much, the rule of thumb there is 10 to 15% of that is actually usage, because it's typically middle of
This
the
is, this is
night,
our data, Bob.
and the rest is infiltration.
This
The
here,
upper table is.
the upper table.
Cubic
Yeah.
feet. you know.
Sorry,
He was
that's,
trying to
You said the
compare.
orange line was.
I made these things just to get my head around, trying to,
Right. He was taking our data and then trying to figure it out back into,
Back
look at
compared to this.
CWMP's projection.
Big spikes.
yes, very big spikes. So if you look at this graph, it's all three sites. So the blue line is Site 2.
Oh, yeah.
The 3, Graham Street, we
Wow.
have some amazing spikes.
That's,
If we had a rain gauge and we could overlay,
wow.
we don't have one in this area, I would recommend having
Like
a rain
maxed
gauge,
out of the
especially if you're gonna
scale.
look at rain gauge.
Oh, rain gauge.
With some groundwater gauge information. If you were gonna look at this data and question, how much infiltration do we have, things like that, which we should do.
Yeah.
A rain gauge
This
and a
one's
groundwater
cubic
gauge
feet,
goes a
this
long
one's
way.
built 1 million gallons a day.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
cubic feet.
So if you look at that Graham Street meter, there are some big spikes there, and
That's like maxed
my guess
out.
is they correlate with rain events, and they're big.
Like sump pumps or something, or just rain, or just groundwater?
Based on this report, Wright Pierce said inflow, so rain-derived inflow. I don't know what else you've done. I know we did a small amount of smoke testing a long, long time ago. I don't know what else you've done for work in these areas. I'm not necessarily recommending it, but you typically leave that to engineers to make those recommendations. But there's definitely some significant peaks at the Graham Street. So basically, when John looked at the Graham Street meter, what he had to do is actually take into account the hold time at that pump station to accurately create this graph, because it actually can hold up to about, I guess, an hour at certain times. So he had to take that into consideration to develop that. It's pretty interesting. I mean, there's definitely some, if you were looking to go after certain things, the Graham Street meter definitely shows it's the only one that really shows significant anything.
Well, it's where most of the water,
It's-
most of our water goes, but, I don't know, 80% of,
Right.
80% of our water goes through Graham Street.
And it's very hard to pinpoint where, because once it all goes to a pump station, it's hard to tell, is it instantaneous or is it over a period of time, which will really define, is it infiltration or is it inflow? Is it a direct source happening right away, or is it over 2 or 3 days after a rain event? But my guess is they look like inflow sources, but if you put that over a rain graph, which we couldn't locate a USGS one in this area, it would probably correlate pretty good. Let's see.
So the data that we gave you, the sheet that you had carried over there.
Yep.
That you identified, those two very low ones. So these numbers don't surprise you that we're going to, 45, 90, 49?
I really can't speak to that. I don't know if that's a good practice or not, comparing the two. It seems like it would be, but I do know there are a lot of communities that have 50% loss, or we do a lot of intermunicipal billing, a lot, probably about 40 to 50 projects, anywhere from DC to Maine, that have been ongoing for years and years and years. And I can only remember one other time that this kind of question came up, water in, water out. Little research, I can't really find too much out there on it. Again, I think an engineer could go a long way. I don't know the accuracy of water meters. I know there's a lot more water meters, even if it's 1%. There's a lot more water meters than there are flow meters.
Yeah, right.
I really don't know. Does it surprise me? Not really. But honestly, it doesn't come up too often.
Yeah, I mean, in
Those
cases, and there's
those
quite a
concern
few of
me.
them, we're
Pretty consistent if you look at groundwater. At least the two that surprised me that I really focused on were, why are these so close? So looking at the groundwater kind of explains that, why those were. And those are the highest water usage months, which most of that water probably wasn't going back into the sewer too. Well, not most of it, but a good portion of it. I mean, do you have an engineer on an engineering firm?
We don't, not as an employee of the town, we contract with usually Weston Sampson.
Weston Sampson? Yep.
Pierce.
Yep. I like the fact that they're somewhat consistent, other than those two outliers, and which are explainable. What's your take on?
I'm totally taken aback. We think we're sending twice as much water out that we're putting into the houses. So that to me is just huge. I mean, twice as much.
Yeah, and you've done I know we've done flow monitoring and a small amount of smoke testing.
We've done everything that
biggest-
Weston Sampson recommended in
Yep.
the area of town that supposedly contributed 80% of the I&I. And we've fixed everything that they can identify, we're told, within that area that contributes to the I&I, particularly the inflow. And yet we still, not seeing it on the bottom line, not seeing it, any improvement. As you say, it's consistent, but pretty consistently bad, except for those 2 quarters.
Yep.
And I just don't know how we can be sending twice as much, if we've done all this work and have all this engineering metering
Yeah.
and things, how we can be sending twice as much water out of here as we're putting into the houses. It's a disconnect, it keeps me up at night.
I don't know what it, to be honest with you, I don't know what it should be, what an acceptable range would be there with water. I mean, typically you have water loss, not, but every system, there's no tight system. Some of our biggest finds are newer construction. Just because it's new doesn't make it tight or good. I'm not saying that's the issue by any means, but
It's fun going to a builder and saying that it's not right.
yeah.
I don't have a problem saying it, but
Yep.
dig it up.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason, I appreciate your coming in, it's really great information.
We're here to help.
I feel, better, I didn't feel bad about the quality of the outflow, the metered.
We're here to help. If we didn't think something, was good, we'd let you know. We'd change it. We'd make the recommendations. We have the best reputation in New England. You can ask just about anybody, and they'll tell you. There's 2 other businesses similar to ours, ADS and EST, and
You better.
I'll leave it alone.
What particularly fails
There's a
most?
good portion of work that's comes our way recently.
What
but-
fails most in the new construction? Like, just pitches?
What I've personally seen, some of the biggest leaks that I found were the boot around the PVC. I don't know if everything's built the same way. It's not my specialty, but the boot being punctured, or the boot on and not having the ring attached. I've found upwards of 45, 50 gallons a minute pouring. You couldn't even go down there. Pouring in the right spot, not every spot, you could have that and no groundwater in there. Yeah. Sometimes extremely high groundwater areas, like in Waltham, there's a few jobs like the Polaroid building, the old Polaroid building there. They, I don't know, they struggled to just put the pipe in, and they must have had a lot of water in the trench. I've never seen anything like it in my life. They couldn't stop it. And then once it was built, I mean, they almost had to rebuild the whole dig it all up and rebuild it again. It just wouldn't stay together, the whole system in that area. I think that was an excessive groundwater in that area, and they just couldn't get it out to do the work to begin with.
So doesn't that fall on the engineer?
I can't speak to that. I know typically, when a job's being done, either, town engineers probably on site, inspecting things and making sure, things are done a proper way. But I also know that people are spread thin in municipalities, and they're not always there. I'm not saying that's the case at all, but it could be old. I mean, I hate speaking to this because this is not, this is an engineer's job to speak to this, but those spikes are significant, and they kind of tell me that they should be somewhat easy to find through smoke testing, but this doesn't necessarily strike me as, like, downtown area is very old, and that's typically where you're going to find direct sources tied into the sewer system. You find the roof leaders tied in, right into the foundation, and you'll find some of these buildings probably had it at some point. But once you get into the outskirts, you didn't really find that too much.
In the school, I think.
Some towns,
We had a pretty extensive smoke testing.
some towns around like the
Center
Hartford
3
area,
years
they actually
ago,
have
right?
under drains
We-
around their house. They're all below the concrete, and they drain right into the service.
Well, we smoke tested that entire area that was supposedly 80% of the inflow problem.
Mhm.
And we house to house for some pumps in that
Right.
area, and And then in our oldest area, in the Whalum area, we did some micrometering and actually videoed some lines. No big, a couple, 3/4 pumps,
For
some
the-
pumps, no huge things, but
A lot of service laterals, which is kind of a tough subject because you can't really always fix them because it's not your property.
Right.
Every town's a little different, but they all contribute. It's usually not a big one. It's usually a lot of little ones. But if there are any inflow sources, the best thing you can do, and it's fairly inexpensive, smoke testing.
yeah.
It's quick, it's fast, it's pretty intrusive, and if somebody's up for election, they probably don't want it done, but it's.
Yeah, but we did it. I mean,
You did
in the
smoke
80%,
test?
in the 80% problem area,
Okay.
at least at that time. Now, maybe things have changed. We've had new construction, maybe it's, new things are being created as
Flat
quickly
roofs, if you have an area in town with flat roofs, that can be even when you smoke test, ideally you want to get on every flat roof that has a flat roof drainage system. You don't know if it does. You can walk around the building, you can see, oh no, this actually has some sort of pitch to it, it drains off the back. Sometimes you don't know. Ideally, when you're smoke testing, you want to be on every roof.
Oh, really?
That's not practical, though.
Yeah.
Some-
But we have drones
even if
now,
they-
though.
That's what we do. We use drones, and it's the best application, because even if they let you on the roof, there might not be access.
Right,
And you're not going to get on every
All
one. When you
kinds of
find one
issues.
flat roof in an industrial area, you have
Physically
40.
getting on
You
a
try to
flat
get the tallest one so you can see them all, but a drone is the best application, and most municipalities are very receptive to using drones, at least in commercial areas. Residential areas, I think most people would prefer having a stranger in your backyard than a drone, but
is there enough resolution, because one of the areas that is the oldest is the Whalum area.
Is it really?
that We have
That's the
the most
oldest?
concerned about, from the pipe, at least the original pipes. We put new pipes in, but the
Systems.
homeowners didn't necessarily put new pipes in. But the whole system, like I said, Dana Street Pump Station, which is what you're seeing turning on and off, is before that area, at least half of that area. And then they have that area, and that's all that goes to Graham, is basically the pump station in that area. Is the data have good enough resolution that we could actually see in rainstorm type events? Because we know when the pump kicks on and off.
Yep,
And
pump run times.
be able to see the background,
yeah,
level rising,
Yeah.
not masked by the pump station, but just see what that background level does, because that's
Yep.
a very
That pump
confined
station?
old area.
Yeah, you can easily put some voltage clamps on that and a recorder,
Uh-huh.
and it'll tell you, you do a mathematical equation of the volume of the cylinder, if it's a round pump station, if it's square, what.
Yeah.
You just, where it turns on, where it turns off, and you do the pump run times, and you'll see exactly.
Okay.
Well, we had the drawdown tests.
Yeah, so we've calibrated the pumps.
Right.
I didn't even know, even just from this data, if you get enough resolution in that curve, because
Right.
when you're looking at it, you
Absolutely.
will see the pump come on,
100%
as you
you
said,
can do that.
ramps up,
Yep.
and then it's on.
It's one of the
and
easiest
it's
things you can
down,
do,
but
too.
in between pumps, there's a level that's only created by the area after the pump station.
Yes.
Is the resolution good enough that we could pull that area out and look and see?
After the flow leaves the pump station?
After the Dana Street pump station, which is creating all this flow you're seeing, after that pump station, there's a neighborhood. And then your meter.
I can't really speak to that. That would be an engineer.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd have to really dig into it. And I believe what the data would show you is that upstream of this meter is this problem. Where? You gotta go find it.
Could you block it, like you said previously? Could you block one section?
Oh, yeah, yep, yeah. So basically, after we're done flow monitoring, we do an II study, things like that. You could smoke test if you thought it was an inflow problem. You would smoke test, and that, for the most part, should take care of everything. The direct sources, manhole investigations, manhole to manhole, look for little leaks, staining, pick it apart, missing mortar, things like that. Building inspections, looking for sump pumps, and flow isolation in the middle of the night. That's a big one. So pretty much you started around midnight and you work till about 5, and you go there's two methods. You go manhole to manhole, and you have pre-calibrated weirs. You put it in the pipe, you let it back up, and when it stabilizes, there's a meter reading, and you pretty much go manhole to manhole to manhole. Once in a while, you'll find a site it just won't work. Backflow, pipe's out of shape, and you just move on. The other method would be every 1,000 feet doing the same thing. Because the bottom line is when you do find something, you're probably gonna have a TV crew come in. So going manhole to manhole isn't really the way most people are doing it now. It's usually every 1,000 feet,
Yeah,
give or
yeah,
take.
the end of a
Try to stay
street.
in the same pipe range.
Yep.
And it's tough work, though.
Yeah.
It's tough work.
Weston and Sampson
It's
did that
it's actually
for us.
basic math, though.
in this
You
area.
got 20 gallons here, I got 25 gallons here, I got a 5-gallon leak in the middle, and it's pretty accurate. I mean, those pre-calibrated weirs are pretty good. Yep. So basically, in the middle of the night, about 4 in the morning, you'd go to the base of that system where it all drains to that one manhole, and you'd get a measurement and say I was getting 10,000 gallons at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's what I'm going to find now. I'm going to find that 10,000 gallons throughout the night. So typically, you'd be doing all this flow isolation work during the night, and then get that measurement at 4 in the morning, and then go back and make sure all those leaks you found add up to that.
Yep.
And it's pretty close.
Well, that's good. This is great. I think all of the things I was interested in have been addressed.
Good. Thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate it.
Problem.
We appreciate it.
Some
Yeah,
homework,
it's a
I have
good
some things to
education.
get you, and again, we're here to help, so
Yes.
you can't call enough.
Well, we're certainly going
Kyle can
to
call
need to
now.
keep looking at this
Guarantee
thing.
We're looking forward to it.
So we will, I'm sure we or an engineer will be taking you up probably on accessing this
Yeah.
that level of data you're talking
As
about.
long as you say, give us permission.
Yep.
Give you okay, you can give him a login.
Yep.
Yep, super.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Paul.
I can go?
Yeah, you're set free. Yeah, right.
Sorry if I took up too much of your time.
No, not at all.
Appreciate it.
That's
Thank you
what-
so much.
That's what we wanted.
Hey, Joe.
We apologize for all of the reschedules, though. I was responsible for
Life.
half of them, so.
Joe. John
One of them
is
was mine
here.
anyways, I think. Thank you.
Good night, John.
Public comments? Any board members have public comment? I have a question. Bob, did we ever get anything back about the liaison stuff?
Not a word.
So my only public comment as a board member would be just kind of disappointed that we haven't heard anything back. We had reached out to the Board of Selectmen saying we all agreed that we really didn't need a liaison anymore. It's probably been about a month. There was an agenda item on the Board of Selectmen's meeting a few weeks ago where they were going to talk about liaisons. They didn't really do anything about it. We still haven't been responded to, so it's kind of it's just a comment. Maybe we can follow up again, sure, but not getting a lot of answers lately out of the Board of Selectmen for certain, well, for that thing in particular.
Receive the response to the email.
No.
I think I saw 2 meetings was discussed, and my impression from the discussion was that they acknowledged, our feelings and our comments, that we didn't think we needed to have one.
Yeah, I just don't
And,
think I actually do anything.
They,
I haven't
they
gotten a
did-
response to
Yeah,
the
they didn't
email.
take a firm action one way or the
No,
other.
and we sent it like an official email. Bob sent it out
Right.
to the chairman, and we haven't got anything back yet. So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of wondering what the heck's going on there.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any board comments? Public comments for the public. I have another one of those. This has nothing to do with sewer commission. It's me as a citizen, 780 West Street. I just wanted to say I'm the director of the fundraising director for the Bengals. We've been going through this, I think, with the school administrations to try and lower the field fees. They were $8,500, I believe, right now. Have been reduced to maybe, I think it's like 49, maybe 4,500. I think we can do about 3,000 is what we've done historically. I just wanted to kind of put it out there. I've put it on social media and other facets that just kind of disappointed that we can't, in this town, when about 68% of the budget goes to the school, we can't find $5,000 to reduce. I think it's kind of crazy that we're kind of saying we can't do that. And it's just kind of disappointing. And there's a chance that after the season, the Bengals, after this will be the 48th year, could have to leave Lunenburg because of it. So, I mean, we balance budgets here that are much smaller. We find $5,000, $7,000, $8,000 and figure it out. So it's doable, but for some reason it's not being done. And we're being met with a lot of resistance, and just wanted to throw that out there. As a member of the Bengals the past about 5 or 6 years, currently don't have any kids in it, but I'm still with them. And I just wanted to say that other youth sports, I believe, are going to be affected by it as well. And there's a good chance that at some point there might not be any youth sports that can afford this high fee, because it is high. A lot of taxes go to the schools, and a lot of money gets spent elsewhere that I find to be waste. So I think we could find this money to almost charge them nothing like we used to in the past. So I understand the basis of it. There is turf field fees, and we have a loan out and things like that, but I think the budget could be balanced in such a way that would allow youth sports to still kind of do what they have to do.
Just out of curiosity, because I missed them, you probably said, what's the funding source now from the town? Is it through the school, or is it the town directly, or?
For the turf fields?
For Ben Gills. Does any town money go to Ben Gills?
No money. No town money.
Oh,
goes
so
to
no
the
town
Bengals.
or school
No, we're a
money goes to
nonprofit
Ben Gills.
organization. We're just associated with the town.
Okay.
We don't get any funding from the town.
Okay. So it's
Take
the
it.
fee. So it's the fees that
The fees
Fund
get
us,
assessed
okay.
to us, and we just can't sustain $8,500 a year. Numbers drop. Concussion concerns go up. Numbers drop. We're doing okay with registration this year, but we just can't do it.
Okay.
Insurance goes up, and it's probably the most expensive sport to run because we provide everything, and it's cheering too. It's not just football.
Yeah.
So it affects a lot of kids.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, we're gonna move ZBA hearing recap down, and we're gonna go Lunenburg schools up. Mr. Londa is here, so we don't want to have him sit through the ZBA hearing recap. We're just gonna go right into the Lunenburg schools grease trap. Mr. Londa, you can come up and sit here if you'd like. All right. So did everybody see the email from Mr. Londa in regards to the concerns we had the last? Anybody want to let's dig into it anyway. So the issue was whether the pre-rinse sink feeds into the terminal trap. There was also a Paul Finnerty email. I believe it's all on one thread, right?
Yeah.
There's a picture in the email. There's some explanation, some law statements in the email. Mr. Londa, I believe your original opinion was that it's level and there isn't really a problem. It looks like from the email, you're trying to confirm that you were correct. There was no problem. I don't want to speak for you, so if I'm saying something wrong, let me know.
That's correct. I looked at this in a couple different ways. I was like, okay, I could try to put a level on this somehow, and then I just realized really what I could do is just show you the photographic evidence. So what I did was take a photo, remove the cover from the north end of the tank, stood directly over the pipe, and took a photo straight down. And so was able to confirm that the vertical pipe is plumb, and then it's attached to a cast iron 90 degree elbow, and therefore the pipe going out would be level. And I didn't include this. Just generally did some additional investigation. So these tanks come. Precast. They are not something the plumbing part of it was not attached at the schools, so they come with the pipe already through the 7 inches of precast concrete. So that's just, I was thinking of how I could best show that, but at the point I took the photo, this was first, I think I want to say the first week of August. We still hadn't been running the school. We had our first day of school today, so the tank level was very, very low, so the pipe would have been fully exposed.
Okay. Anybody have any further concern? I know we kind of asked Mr. Londa to go out and do this work.
I'm a lot cleaner on the other issue, which is the sink, which they gave us the state requirement, which surprised me that the state tells you to pre-rinse and dump all whatever grease you rinsed off directly into the system, but that's the law, so it's compliant. So that one, I agree, is completely resolved. Whether that thing is level or not, unfortunately, a photo from directly above, it's impossible to tell if what you're looking at is level in the horizontal direction, so that didn't really do that. And I couldn't tell that the vertical pipe was perpendicular, level, true in the perpendicular sense. I do understand that the casting comes through. However, there's a flex joint between the casting and I don't believe it's an elbow, it's a T that the vertical pipe is connected to, because there's a hole in the top.
Yeah.
It's a T, and that's the concern. If it weren't a T, if it were an elbow, I wouldn't care. But because it's a T, if that level of that T, which is only a couple inches above the flow, is down, then the grease that's floating on the top is going to go float right into the top of the T and out the junction. So I'm only one member. I'm not convinced that, because I looked at it, and it was brought to my attention by the pumper, who said, gee, that thing is not, is pointing down, because it's got a flex joint, and it's got a, I don't know,
There's a
4 foot,
coupler.
5 foot.
It's a coupling.
Yeah, coupler, flexible coupler that's on there, rubber
Yeah,
coupler.
with four bands.
Yeah, absolutely, but it's a coupler because it's flexible. I'm personally not convinced because I looked at it. It's level. Is it going to be a problem? Not likely in the current application.
My only concern is somebody who sees these every day and pumps them every day noticed it. Maybe I don't notice it, maybe you don't notice it, maybe the pitcher doesn't notice it. But someone who physically opens these every day and sees different municipalities, and he said, hey, something's wrong there. It's like, I might not see it when I look at it. I don't know. It's not my scope. But maybe we can send him the picture. Maybe we can send him the email.
I would have thought it would be not that difficult, even if it's the next time it's inspected. I don't foresee an urgent problem. But if it's not right, it ought to get fixed. That the next time maybe it's inspected, that cover's taken off or even pumped, that measurements be made. It shouldn't be that difficult to get a measurement of the cast part where it enters the tank and the T to confirm that it's level within, whatever.
See, I think when you look at the photo, you'll see there's not a lot of the pipe that's through the cast concrete. It's actually exposed, because on top of that you have the coupling with the 4
Right.
bands. And obviously,
But really-
what essentially you're saying is the pipe is not level, or are you saying the elbow is
No, I'm saying
not
that there's
level?
what it looked to me like that coupler, which is a rubber coupler with 2,
4 bands on it.
Thank you. On the 2 ends of the pipe, that they're spaced, and it is flexed slightly. That's what I saw.
I would say that I do have the photo if you need a
It's
color version
impossible,
of it, but
John,
I
from
don't
a photo,
really see.
looking
I
down
don't.
at
I don't
something-
see that when I look at it at all.
It's impossible to look down at something and see something that is not level in the horizontal dimension if you're just looking down.
Well,
If
you
you're
can
looking
actually.
sideways.
You know why in this case? Because it is open at the top. You essentially have a circle, and if you take a circle and you tilt it, it becomes an ellipse
Well, I think
from face on. So I know maybe
Where's
you'd have to have, if you turn it 45 degrees, it becomes a line.
Yeah.
This looks like a perfect circle.
But if you got a 6-inch diameter circle that's, off on its diameter by a half an inch, I'm pretty sure you're not going to see, maybe we could put it on a graphic and blow it up and put a
just wait
circle
till it
over it.
gets
but-
Yeah, I would say that the pumper you had was the one who said it wasn't level. When he comes next time,
Yeah.
just have him demonstrate that it is or isn't. I mean, I don't think we need to get them out here again
No.
before the next pumping.
Oh, absolutely, huh.
Yeah, and I would also ask the level, perfect level is what, 0.001? What is the standard we're looking for here?
Oh, I don't even know. I don't even know if we would,
I just so that I can tell him what he should be reporting on.
You might know.
Well, I don't know that there is a
Well, if he takes a measurement, we
standard
can
on
then
percentage of,
apply reason.
because obviously the tank might not be perfectly level. And of course, it's precast, so that means the pipe follows the tank. we would like the tank to be pretty level, but, what is the standard you're looking for? Because like I said, when I look at this photograph, and when I stood 2 feet about 3 or 4 feet over the pipe, because the pipe is 2 feet below the surface. And I look straight down, I take this photograph, I'm seeing only a true or a plumb pipe. I don't see that it's kicked forward or back.
Yeah,
And like I said,
I understand and I respect that, John. We just see different things, and
The level of the tank hasn't ever really gotten to a point where that would be much of an issue anyway, right?
well, yeah, no, it gets full.
It does get full.
It fills up. And
It
see,
will
this,
fill
there's a T, so you got where it goes out, and then you have this flex thing, and then you have a T. The bottom of the T is this long pipe, as John says, that goes within a foot or so of the bottom, which is where what goes out is supposed to come up. But the T is not very tall, right? So and the water level is going to be whatever level it takes in the tank to flow this thing out the pipe, right? So the water level is somewhere in the pipe, and you got this T. If that T gets close to the surface, the water's going to flow through the top of the T, not up through the bottom, which is how you keep the grease out. And in a bad situation, which this is not, but we've seen tanks where the water level has inches of grease floating on the water. So it's not even the water level, the grease can go above the water level. And if that goes to the point of the top of the T, it's going to go into the T and flow right directly out with absolutely no containment.
So you say it's not, you don't think it's that much of a concern?
Yeah, because the school isn't generating much grease today.
Look, I think we're all saying the same thing. We're going to wait till the tank is inspected or pumped next time, and between now and then, I'm sure the sewer commission or the sewer department can find out what would be an acceptable variance, and we'll go with there. I mean, we don't want to creating an additional work.
No, not at all, not at all.
So I need you to
And
go
we'll
open it
probably,
up.
when it gets inspected, we'll know about it. We can go
Right.
down,
Hook your head in there.
we can get a,
Carl's
Whatever we
going to
need.
volunteer to go down.
right.
Carl's itching to go down.
Bring my laser level.
Okay.
And
anybody,
as far as the other issue, I read the CMR further and don't understand why it's set up that way, but it is. So
But as you see in subsection D for that section,
Right.
it's required for larger buildings.
Right.
Hotels, restaurants, cafeterias.
Yep.
So
Good to know.
that's why we have it.
anything else?
Nope.
Nope.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, John.
Appreciate it. Okay, going back up to the ZBA hearing recap, Electric Ave subdivision into 2 lots, the hearing update from attendees. Who was the attendees?
I was going to attend and I got distracted, but I did watch the end of it it was broadcast, fortunately. Yeah, and it was approved. They did make mention of sewer that was approved with the,
They approved the.
they approved
subdivision?
the subdivision and whatever,
I think
whatever
the
waivers.
subdivision
Well,
that we
whatever
just put
waivers.
into one, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Did it put
What they
into
approved
one?
was some
Put
waivers.
it into one, now he wants to divide it into 2.
Yeah, but
But the important thing is the acceptance was based on all the approval of all other boards involved, including sewer.
So we have a vote on that?
no, we haven't been asked for anything.
We haven't been asked for anything.
Just presented.
So the presumption is that they're going to comply with what our regulation is. They're going to come in at some point and ask
We
for.
don't- we would be voting on the subdivision?
No.
No.
They're going to need to, they're going to have a change of use.
They're gonna ask us?
Because it's a gas station, it's a change of use.
Yeah.
So that's why they have to come back to us. Because they need a connection, they need to make a connection, it's a change of use, there may be some fees associated with the
Right,
change
okay,
of
but
use.
that has nothing to do with the 2 lots.
Nothing to do with it.
That's
Nothing to do
that's
with-
for the business that he's planning on putting in there.
Exactly.
So when that actually comes
Right.
to term.
And all of the sewering that we approved is on one of the lots. So
Right.
he didn't undo anything that was done, that's all fine. So as long as he doesn't ask for some other waiver, but understanding he's going to connect through Dana Street
For one of the buildings.
for
Yeah,
the
none
new
of,
building,
correct.
for the new.
This is a whole new building, right? Gas station, donut
Yeah,
drive-through thing.
whole thing.
And the important thing was that
Right
the
down the
plan
street.
we had received didn't show the sewer commissions clearly, and he will be getting us a new plan that does show.
Yeah.
So no easements would be required.
Now,
Right.
he did bring up that down the road, he might want to put something in that back corner, and can he connect to the sewer line that's in the easement? You know, I didn't know the answer. I mean,
I don't even know what the question is. I may do something
bring it up
sometime in the
and bring it
future.
to
That's
though,
down the future.
Yeah, so he'll bring it all to us eventually
Yeah,
anyway.
right.
Okay.
But, so he's gonna not just give us, is somebody's gonna give us the information for the change of use, the new projections of volume and all that good
Yeah,
stuff, right?
actually, he called today about the flows.
Have to do all that, wouldn't he?
Or the new buyer. I'm surprised how much Dan's doing. He's selling the piece of property.
Oh, he's just selling a piece of property and someone else is developing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so he's subdivided to sell.
Yeah,
Ah, okay.
it's my understanding.
All right, well, we'll look forward to talking to whoever the
Yeah.
owner
sure.
will be.
They'll come to us.
We'll do what we have to do then.
Yeah.
Right. And Lemonster, it'll have to go to Lemonster because it is,
So after this goes to Leominster?
before we can approve, Lemonster has to say it, so.
Right, because if we approved it and Leominster said no, it would be useless anyway.
Right.
I guess that makes sense, Bob.
So,
Okay.
still work to be done.
So that's that. All right. Evaluation of past inflow infiltration work procurement process. Carl, to talk to Heather on procurement update.
Yeah.
The action there last time?
I can give you guys a little update, made some progress. The first thing I did from our meeting was I got a hold of Heather, told her, what we were doing. She mostly wanted to confirm that it was engineering work and not construction, so she said, yep, it's engineering, you don't need to comply with all the procurement regulations, but, it's advisable to get quotes and, do it right. I did tell her the 3 companies that I had some discussion with at the Mass Municipal. She was very familiar with 2 of them and not at all with the 3rd. The 3 companies, Santec and Woodward and Curran, she was very familiar with, as we've talked to them before. The 3rd company was Suez. She wasn't familiar, and after talking to all 3 of those, I now know why. Suez doesn't do that kind of work. What they do, which was interesting, though, is they do maintenance plans for towns and sewer systems. So we may
Might be useful.
keep their name, might keep their name handy. But he did recommend, we talked to a 3rd company, which I had complete mind lapse on, Teague and Bond is another company, and matter of fact, they're talking to Heather about doing some work right now, currently, so that they're also, so I talked to all 4 of those companies. All but Suez is interested in looking at and understanding better. They basically, want to get some information so that they can scope it. So I told them that, once we had this meeting tonight, I could send them the write-up that we had done, which is sort of a high-level view of what we want, and that we would also put together the documentation that they'll need, all of the data that they're going to need, because a couple of them rightfully said, look, in order to understand the scope, I want to look at the data that you want me to use, so I understand how big this project is. A good point. So I said we'd put those 2 things together for them, give them access to the data, so that they could, so the thought was that we would provide that overview that we have to them now, with Barb's help, get some of the data, which is, fortunately, a lot of it's in one place now because of that state report. Weston Sampson had put together that big data file for the state with all of the studies and things that they had done. So I think there's not much more we need to add, the manhole study, a couple other little things, any work that we've done here that wouldn't be in any of those studies, that the manholes that Jack might have fixed, or dishes, or things like that. So hopefully it's not going to be a lot of information, and we can give them some access, maybe on the cloud, to go look at this. And then maybe have them come in and talk to us if they're still interested. And as a result of that, come up with a finalized statement of work to have whoever's still standing give us a bid.
If anyone.
So that's the where we are in the,
So you just want us to go ahead and say, yeah.
I think if that document that I had passed out before, we'll
Yeah.
just get that to them.
Everybody's right with that, right?
Okay.
Send it over to them and see if they're interested and
Yeah, good.
kind of run with it.
All right, yeah, no, they were, well, good to talk to, understood the problem, and
Thank you.
willing to work with us. You're welcome.
Irrigation meter 57, irrigation meter 25. Your agenda say the same thing. Yeah, mine has numbers. What are these numbers?
No, that's just me, like the number of how many irrigation and manual we have. That's
All right, so irrigation meter, manual meter, selection, council input, policy, and implementation. So we had Jones' report, 814. Are you asking me if we need to do a recap?
Well, I wondered, I had sent her something and asked if she handed out anything at that meeting, or if there's any way I can look at what she had.
You two were in that meeting. Did she hand anything out?
No.
It was a quick meeting, right?
Okay.
Hour, I think.
You were
I
on
just
TV
wondered.
within the first hour and a half.
I watched the meeting on YouTube, and it looked like it was a good discussion. Yeah, she had done a nice,
It wasn't on
It wasn't
YouTube.
on
or
YouTube.
I listened to it.
Yeah,
The
you
tape,
listened to it,
okay.
yeah.
So I didn't watch it.
That's how I knew. That's how I knew it was a short meeting. 'cause
It
I
was
saw
so
live.
vivid in my mind that I was listening to it that I swear I could see John's face.
Are we looking to, tonight to vote on who?
No, I don't think
No.
so. That's not on the plan, no.
Okay, good.
No,
I
but-
think it would be
No, we gotta wait for Joan.
good
Yeah.
for you guys to hear it right from Joan.
Right.
Yeah. So why don't we
I
take? we wanna take a look?
formulated my opinion, but
Yeah.
I think you should hear it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I
Yeah,
heard it on
we-
on the tape, and it was good. But I don't think we should take any action until Joan's here.
Right, I agree.
And we should have a lot more discussion when she's here. But there were a couple of things that I wanted to comment on, so we can maybe help move it forward, and maybe even an action could happen. Pretty much what I got from Joan's report, other than she did a lot of work talking to those people, was that everybody's pretty happy with what they got. And they're pretty happy with service. So it sounds like at that level, both suppliers and both equipment is successful in the right application.
It's doing what it's supposed to do. And
Doing what it's supposed to do, and they're happy with the service they get and the
So it's more of a
reliability.
why change.
So, yeah, it's, how they got there is probably the reason for why they're there, so, but there were no surprises in terms of, you can't go this way or any really bad things. It was mostly, okay, good stuff. The one thing that occurred to me after, though, was the one reference, and I think probably most important one, that we haven't talked to is the Lunenburg Water District. I think we should maybe have Joan, so it's consistent, talk to them about their experience, why they are there, what they're going to do in the future, because one of the factors might be how disconnected or similar do we want to be to what they're doing, because there's a lot of synergies and commonalities here. So I think their input and where they're going is important. And the other thing that I think we get past we can go either way, it's going to come down to, as it always usually does, what's the cost, but what's the total cost of ownership? Not just what's the cost of the meter or the cost of this. I think to the user, yes, whether it be, because it's really easy for us to go look at the hardware, right? But I think in fairness to our users, we need to look at their total cost.
Agreed.
Plumbing, maintenance, what's their total cost, both through us, because we're going to pass that, but also solely to them. And that in order to have the total equation, to have a discussion and a vote, I think we need the total cost. So we might need more information from the suppliers or even from who's out there, so we might need to know what kind of meters they have.
Right. I have an irrigation meter, and one of the questions I would have is, I'm confident it would work with one of the suppliers. I'm not sure if it would work with the other supplier. I spent $1,000, I don't know, 3 years ago, Barbara? Something like that. So yes, I'd like to know what the cost would be to the homeowners.
To the homeowners, yeah. And if we knew the meters, because, if it's a matter of putting a new electronics box on your meter, yeah, if they can get away without plumbing, that could be a significant difference to
right.
our customers.
Right.
But we don't see that.
I mean, just so everyone out there in Lunenburg understands, part of the reason it costs so much is the state all of a sudden changed the regs about whether you could have a meter, even an irrigation meter with lead in it. So my plumber had to scramble at the last minute to find a meter that didn't have lead. So there was some additional,
Lead is in like a base material for the meter?
there were
Or just like a lead solder?
any kind of lead in the
Really?
meter,
Oh,
even
wow.
though it was an irrigation meter. So,
Okay, all right, so that was my only comments on that, on the meter thing.
Anybody
Plant
else?
that.
So we should wait for it.
Yeah, we'll wait for
Yeah.
her.
I have other notes on my my working agenda that I'm just gonna skip over and we'll wait for Joan.
But I think we could talk about the legal on the non-irrigation meter.
I'm
Is it
sorry?
just
Manual meters.
The manual meters. Remember, we have two things here going on.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, manual meter policy, yeah.
For the
So you talked to council.
the trailer park, yeah, and I talked to him again today. They're drafting up a proposed letter for us to send to the owner of the trailer park.
So as of right now, it's wait for that.
It's wait for that. But what the letter is basically gonna, what their guidance is that, if we want to just inform the trailer park owner that we're no longer going to read those meters, we're going to bill them on the input water, then that's our right to do that. And that's the letter that they're drafting.
Okay, so we'll wait for the letter, and then we'll worry about if we need a policy or if we need to invite the owner in or if we want to just send the letter. But let's wait, see what the letter says. We'll talk about it when we get it. Did he give you a time frame?
He was supposed to contact me today, so it's pretty imminent. It'll certainly be before our next meeting.
You know
I'll
if
make
it's
sure
gonna
before our
cost-
next meeting.
$35 an hour or $142 an hour for that letter?
That's a little further in the agenda.
Okay. I was just curious if you knew. All right, so we're good on irrigation meters. Just every time I see this on here, I go crazy. I wish I could just do that at work. Fitchburg John, Fitch Highway cost sharing review. Final costs were received 727. What are the next steps? Do we need to meet with Fitchburg to discuss? I believe this information on here. Anybody have an opinion on this?
I haven't had a chance to look at the detail of where they've made the changes. I suspect that they're in the areas that John and I pointed out to him that we thought weren't quite correct. But I did, and Barb confirmed, I did go back to what Joe, I forget his last name, Jordan had given us for estimates, and they're right back at that number, basically, right? So
Right.
I can look at the detail, but they got back to the number that we were expecting. So I think that that's okay. But I'd just assume everybody else can, confirm that that's okay. And, because my understanding from what was sent was that they now, once they want to get the number agreed, and then we can start talking about the payment terms.
Right. Yeah, schedule.
Sounds
everything.
reasonable. So I think we're very close, but I'd like to wait till Joan's back to.
Okay, so next, maybe next
Yeah.
agenda?
Yep. That works for me. Is everybody else cool with that?
Yep.
FY19 legal fees. So we got two invoices. 0.3 hours at 100.
Well, we got one, yeah, we just got one today. The first one was in the package, and then I just got the other one today.
Okay.
And it was so the first one was 0.3 hours for 114, this one was 6.5 hours for 924. So is that where you're getting the $35 or 114
Yeah.
per hour? They're still basing it on a flat fee. They're not
So by usage.
proposing, right. But we had estimated 199 an hour, and we're getting it for either 35 or 114.
No, we're not getting 114. You're getting 0.3 hours for 114. You're getting it for
Yeah, it's way higher.
3 times.
Oh, I went the wrong way.
Yeah. It's like a little over a quarter of an hour for 114.87.
Right. Yeah, so we're not getting a flat fee, we're getting whatever that month calculates to be, and that ain't right.
No, it's not right. The way it's based, and if anyone's watching or anything, we've discussed it before. Basically, if we go a whole month and sewer commission, the only people to use council for that month, then the fee goes up astronomically. I mean, I don't know exactly what his 1 month. Do we know what it is per month? He must bill the town per month no matter what. And if
Right.
you're the only board who uses it, and maybe I'm wrong,
Yeah, no, you're exactly right.
then you get billed that. So, what'd you say it was, possibly? Let's just throw a number out there. Say it is $1,000.
Yeah, because I think it's like $70,000-$80,000 a year.
Okay, so if you break it down, let's just,
Yeah.
for fun, call it $800 a month. And if we use them for a half an hour and no one else uses them for the entire month, then that half an hour is going to cost us
Nope.
$800.
$8,000 a month.
$8,000 a month.
Yeah,
What did I
more than
say?
our budget.
800.
Oh, wait, okay. But you get the point.
We get the point.
Yeah.
We don't like it.
We know, and why would we? So,
No, it's not right for our customers.
So exactly. I mean, we're an enterprise fund. So at the end of the day, sewer users, and I think we all agree, shouldn't have to pay just because no one else decided to use council that month, and then we have to say, "Oh, sorry, sewer users. You know, you paid your entire year's budget of council fees in February because no one had a question that month."
Right.
So that's why we came up with this $199 an hour, which is high, but it's better than this $114 for 0.3 hours. And then you have on 820, 6.5 hours, it was equal out to 142 an hour. So that sometimes there's going to be months where it's less. Sometimes there's going to be months like in July where it's really, really high. So anyway, we have two invoices
So
received, you
did
said?
you talk with Heather? You were gonna follow up.
I haven't talked to Heather at all. I'll ask her. I'm sorry. So we have 2 invoices right now, right?
We do. And I think I sent you the second one today, so you should have both of them.
Are they literally invoices from the law firm to the sewer commission?
Yeah, how are they actually written to figure out?
It's like the one that was in the package.
Yeah, but
It's the
it's
same
not-
thing.
'Cause I don't see how the law firm could charge us.
I think the law firm charges the town, and the
Charges
town,
the town, right.
board, and because the law firm gives a breakdown of the hours.
Right, but
Gives
then
it to
each
the
one is for
town.
sewer, like,
Yeah.
this is for the
But the-
sewer commission.
Yeah, so the law firm gives it to the town. They don't give it to us directly.
Yeah, there's no way we're going to pay the law firm, because then,
No, so so they break it down that this is the many hours the sewer commission uses. It's this much money, and then the town gives it to the sewer commission and says you owe this portion for the month.
oh, this is an invoice to the town.
Yeah, it's always going to be to the
Not
town.
to
It'll
us,
never
it's
be
to-
to us.
it's to
It's
Heather.
just his break. He just tells the town,
Right.
or I should say the firm tells the town what we
What
used.
it was,
And
right?
then the town gives us that invoice and says pay
Right.
this much money because that's what you used.
Right.
And we're saying
You would have to transfer
no.
somehow.
Well, and the email from Elaine who said, Heather asked me to forward to you for payment, so we need to determine how they're expecting us to.
So
make that payment.
it seems to me, I don't know if they want us to write a check to the law firm or not. And again,
Right.
I have to talk to Heather. But what are we going to do with those
But are we
invoices we
on-
have right now? Are we saying that we're not going to pay these invoices we have right now?
Yeah, are we on, I mean, this action was from quite a while ago that we were, are we on record telling them what we are willing to pay?
So we are, and we had Heather and Director of Finance here one time. We kind of went over it then
All right.
too.
Okay.
I was supposed
So
to
why don't
follow
we just
Just
agree
Just stay with that.
to transfer based on those hours, but at the rate we're proposing, and they take it or not.
What did we do with the previous town council? Joel?
It wasn't.
It was, we paid directly. We authorized, we had nothing to do with the town. We would decide when we wanted to use them, we'd go use them, we'd pay them, town had nothing to do with it.
Oh, wow.
Now, because the town has this firm, if we wanted to go, we could still go use KP and Law, but we'd need their approval to go to a separate council, because we don't have that ability in our charter. We need the Board of Selectmen to agree to that. But I don't know why we just don't take the proactive step and say, okay, thank you, it's 0.3 hours, and at $199, it's this much. How do we want to transfer it?
I'll propose it to Heather and say, and then you get the 6.5 hours that they're charging a lot less. So do you do that for that too? I mean, that's kind of the.
Oh, you gotta be consistent, yeah, I mean, just these, this is telling us how many hours, and that's,
Okay. All right, I'll throw it back out to Heather and say that. We'll wait. Because right now I don't even know if we're supposed to write a check to the town or to
Right,
MTC or who do you write it to?
right. I don't know, I don't know. I had sent an email to Heather in the end of July, just saying that was gonna bring it forward, but what the intent was to.
Did Heather respond to the email saying, yeah, great, no, nothing?
Nope, and then at the last meeting, I had just that you were gonna piggyback on that email,
Yeah, and I didn't, and I apologize.
so wait till the next meeting.
Yep.
just to push that thought, I'd like to make a motion that we authorize Barb to work out the transfer with the town for the legal, based on the hours that we use and the $199 rate.
So you want Barb to,
Well, that's who would do it. That's who would take care of the transfer. I just want, just to make that authorization, so if she talks to Heather, Heather says, yeah, okay, we'll do it that way, she can just do it, you know.
Oh, after Joe has confirmed it? Because I'd rather not do a transfer unless we know that that's,
yeah, I think I should talk to Heather first, because that's Barb going to Heather. I think it's probably cleaner
Yeah, okay.
if I go to Heather first, stating our intentions.
Who does she
I'd be happy
respond
to
to
do the
better?
transfer.
But then you'd have
Probably
authorization
Barb.
for the transfer. But
But-
that's fine, we
but
can vote it
Barb
later.
works for Heather, so it's kind of like, well, it should come, I think it should come from me first.
The
and then
commission, yeah.
When it comes time to see what she says. When it comes time to the transfer stuff, the actual logistics of it, yeah.
We can vote it later.
Yeah, sure.
Taking the motion back.
Yep. Oh, nobody seconded, so it wasn't really. a
Good
motion.
point. Okay. All right. Billing outsourcing.
The Munis quote is out there, finally. So we wait, they respond that, they have 30 days to respond.
Okay.
We shall see.
Just wait.
So, could you send me what was sent for the request?
Yep.
Okay. The other thing is I'm happy to hear that, thank you. I happened to bump into Steve,
Valandrinos.
thank you, I can never pronounce his name, and I always don't want to mispronounce it, today, and you know, I said you were concerned that, you know, Munis is tough to work with, and he said, 'cause I asked him, I said, who interfaces with Munis, you know, and he said, well, I normally do, or Karen, that's, you know, and I said, well, you know, we need to get this quote on the data format, and he said, I'll be happy to help. He said, I'm usually the guy, and he said, it's probably just trying to, you know, they just got to tell you where to put the commas and blah, 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 so if you get any pushback, or whatever you get, please review with Steve.
Yeah, it's not at that level yet, so we're just first getting it out there, that we have an extract file, and that it's with Northern Data, and they may have already a working relationship with them. So that's where we're at right now, for the Munis to come back and tell us what they would.
We asked them for a quote on the data
on
format.
taking an extract file, right.
Well, all we want is the data, is the format that the data has to be in. That's, I want to be careful we don't ask them for too much. If we ask them to create an extract file, because I'm not sure
That was the last information from Northern Data, was that they would provide an extract file for Munis. So that's what I went with.
they'll provide a file, and all they need is the data format. Okay. I'm just afraid that after all these 6 months, we're going to get something back from them that's for this grandiose thing, and everybody's going to go, oh, that's not what we really wanted. We just wanted to know where the commas go and what's in the field. You know? So,
That's, I think, the nuts and bolts. I think that comes after. I mean, we just need to know.
could you talk to Steve, and just tell him, so, because I'm just real concerned, Barb, because this is advertised by Northern Data to just be, tell us the format that the data has to be in. I don't think we're asking, I didn't get the impression we're asking Munis to do anything other than provide data format, not to do any extracts, any files, anything special other than tell us what the format for our file has to be to dump into your system.
Okay. I'll check, because I think Munis will charge us to take someone's data to put into their system. Right now, I'm manually entering it.
I
They
understand.
need to get, they have quotes, and I have the information from 2012 when we were going to take Access and dump it to Munis. And
But they were going to do some software, right?
In order
to do
to
that manipulation.
accept that, right.
Yeah, and I don't think they have to do that here. I think they just need to tell Northern Data the format that their file has to be in order to download into meters. That's why I'm concerned that this is, we're asking them for this big thing, and all we want is data format information, so Northern Data can create this file that has the right format to just automatically upload into Munis.
I'll check.
Minutes for approval. Everybody look at 7:31.
Yes.
Yep.
Any changes? We'll take a motion to approve the minutes for 7:31:18.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from 7:31:18 Sewer Commission meeting.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. 8:14:18. Everybody get a chance to look at those. Any?
I did, I wasn't here, but I listened to it on the tape.
Okay.
And I only have one question, and I didn't go, I listened to the tape, and then I just saw the minutes today, so I didn't go back to the tape. But there's a statement in the minutes that says something about the data download being done at night or something. I don't have the minutes in front of me. Implying that once a day it was, oh, I got my glasses on. Somebody else can help me find this thing, because it talks about when they actually,
Are you concerned that it's wrong?
I'm concerned that it's wrong. No problem.
You can get on your tablet, just do a quick Control F and type in the word you're looking for there. Oh.
Now, let me just go get it here so I can, it was the 814? Is it,
Third line after irrigation manual meters.
The third line, you skipped right over it. You must have got past the third line.
Poor singles had no problem because, because the meters transfer information during the night. Is that,
Yeah, what she said was when she talked to them in Shirley, they, even though they have poor signals, places that the meters transfer at night, so there's low bandwidth.
Less traffic.
Yeah, traffic, yeah.
You know,
Okay,
I
if-
thought that's what was said, Carl. I would
Okay.
have to go back and listen to the,
okay, I mean, whether it was right or wrong wasn't the point, as long as it was said, because I thought it was real time. I thought you could access it, you know, I thought it gave alarms. So this might be unique to the Shirley. Okay, so that, if that links back to Shirley, because maybe when we review this again, we see, because that was the impression that the system actually was available real time. And it may be just that Shirley does it at night. Okay. Okay, no problem.
So you're
Yep,
good?
yep.
So, want someone to make a quick motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes from 8:14.
second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Oh, do we rewrite the password down for the alarm code for the DPW?
Was there a problem?
There was a problem.
Did you guys set off the alarm?
Yeah, there was a number missing on the,
Oh, really?
yeah, so we kept.
I mistakenly.
Just one digit.
I accidentally sent it all to Joan, too. I'm sorry, Joan. I didn't mean to.
But that was my preference. I wanted to be last on the list.
Well, too
You
bad.
still get stuck holding.
Barbara afterwards was like, why, John needs it. I'm like, oh, yeah. So my fault. Apologize for that. Privilege fee. Commitment to BOA for 7 Rogers Way in the amount of $80,200.
Right, the fourth building has been installed, come up online, so we've received some of the privilege fee monies, and therefore the assessors need a commitment in order to process
Okay.
that payment. So this is just this is the entire assessment of 199, put on my glasses, 340.08. But what we get is a portion of that, and then they pay us $4,800 a year for multiple years.
A lot of years. 30, I think.
To get my own.
And
It's
then-
just a quorum signature, right? It's not there's no policy that says it's 100%. Just a quorum, right, for signatures?
What about it?
So if you have these signatures, it's just a policy question, maybe I'm crazy, but where it says Lunenburg Sewer Commissioners and you have one missing, that's not gonna be an issue?
No.
As long as it's a quorum?
Right.
I probably should have asked that years ago.
No, it's, as long as there's a quorum.
That's what I figured. I just didn't know if there was some crazy bylaw or rule that we didn't know about. Q1 FY19, commitment for sewer billing, 210-5846.
Yep. So the Q1 bills, first quarter bills for FY19 have gone out, amount of $210,058.46. 2 pages. I just need your signature.
Both.
And it is dated the date they were mailed, so don't be thrown off that it's not today's date.
It's 2 pages.
Thank you.
I'm using red pen, is that okay?
No, it's not okay.
Bad luck, but it's
still have a
okay.
There are pointers there, so.
Once we line you out, there's still a quorum. So don't worry about it.
That was all I had.
That's all you get there. All right. Member agenda inputs for future meetings. I have an email from Carl. Carl, I know I didn't ignore it. I read it. I just didn't add anything. Anybody have anything they want to add right now?
Negative.
I do have one. I was going to kind of make it a public comment, but it actually probably fits better here. I'd like to put on our agenda for the future the meeting nights that have Board of Selectmen meetings and Sewer Commission meetings. Sometimes I see things on the Board of Selectmen meeting that I'd like to be involved in or watch or public comment on or say something or be involved in that we can't because we have our Sewer Commission meeting night the same night. I talked to Heather. There is no hard and fast rule of what nights we do our meetings. Right now it's just on the website, but there's no like bylaw or anything that says it has to be every Tuesday or every other Tuesday. So I'd like to put on the agenda talking about it, whether it's a change of night or go to once a month or do something like that. Now we have a lot of business going on, but we don't have to discuss it right now. But I think for the next agenda, Barb, if we could add that, because there are a lot of things going on in the Board of Selectmen meetings that, you know, I see the agendas on the same night as ours, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have been there for that, or I would like to make a public comment on it. Just like the one last on the 14th. I mean, my basement was underwater, so I wouldn't have went anyway, but there was a lot of discussion about, the land stuff, and it would have been good to be there. But I don't know if other people share the concern, so let's just put it on the agenda and maybe hash it out, and maybe nothing changes. I don't know. So that was going to be my public comment, but it actually makes more sense there.
Once a month would be,
I'm fine with one longer meeting a month. It's just pretty long.
yeah.
And there's nothing says we can't call special meetings either.
That's right. Yeah.
If anyone else
Just
wants to do it, you need 2/3 vote. If I want to do it, I can just
Yeah.
call them. So that's all I have. Anybody else have anything?
On the agenda, besides my normal list, the maintenance plan and the
Yeah.
supervision things, I think, I don't think it's too late to start thinking about the budget process, so I'd like to get on a agenda.
How we do it?
Yeah, what the schedule is, what we, when, it was, we started late, we got, it was just not good.
That didn't help us.
It wasn't good. I mean, we don't have to wait until it's due, because we know, and there were some things that certainly I wanted to discuss within the budget that were kind of meaty. And we need to start those fairly early.
Yeah.
So some plan, and maybe linked to that, I think we should invite the DPW director to a meeting to discuss what his plans are for the year. We've got lots of things that we've found problems that need fixing. Does he have any plans on those, or because we just don't ever, get that information, and, the operations is got to run, but we need to have some insight into that, and it may have some implications to the budget, where we want to spend money, or whatever Jack wants to do to go fix, we need to get that in the budget, so.
We should put the budget process thing on for the next one. I don't know how beefy it is. How's our agenda look next?
Okay, I don't know, I haven't.
Take a look at it. The budget process thing. I like both of those things.
Yeah.
But
And
the
it could be
budget
part of the
process
process. I mean, the process might be
Right.
meet with DPW director
Right.
in some point in the
Let's talk
process.
about the budget process,
Right.
and then we'll talk about the DPW director part.
exactly.
After, we should figure out a
Right.
little bit better of a process, because it was really rushed this year.
Wasn't good.
I wasn't super comfortable with the whole thing. And then I had to present it because you just threw me under the bus.
That's right, that's right. Yeah. This year, I'm going to run you over with the bus.
I could ask how the sewer works again.
There you go.
Town meeting.
Downhill.
Yeah, downhill, yeah, just, if you live uphill, you're fine. Anybody else?
Well, I'm good.
Public comment?
Not so much public comment, but there are a number of things, usually on the agenda, we have a business manager update section, which isn't on here. So I'd like to get some updates on some activities that are ongoing that we don't discuss. Just, whatever's happening. Well, I mean, there's a number of things that are hopefully ongoing, and some of them we had left up in the air, and it wasn't clear what was going to happen. We've got our contract out to Weston Sampson, for the manhole work, the 10 manholes. Do we have any update on that? Whether that's
No,
started,
that's-
scheduled? This is the task one.
Yep, it's with Jack, and we took that whole DPW thing off of there unless there was something, just, we're trying to keep meetings a bit more concise, so unless there was an update, we weren't putting it on the
That
agenda.
was me.
Yeah.
So,
So a
Okay.
lot of stuff if there wasn't a lot of meat to it, we kind of removed it.
But
And
I
can
think
add
we
it
got, I
back.
think we got to go back, because these things,
Send me
I'm
that
not
list that you
comfortable
have.
that task one, which we were under a gun, we couldn't review, I sat here, and we didn't have time to review my list of questions on the RFP, because it was so urgent that this gets done. And now we're 6 months later, and I'm not sure that anything's getting done. So if we don't
Right,
keep
good point.
touching these things,
Yep.
they just go into a crack and never come
Send me the
out.
list that you have right there. Email it over to me, and it's more of a, instead of public comment, it's more of an input, I would say, for a future meeting, to add the business
Mm-hmm.
manager report back on, Barb, I guess,
well,
and maybe kind of give a quick
but like,
snapshot.
that's where the business manager was all the little, anything else that wasn't big agenda items, so commitments and stuff that I'm doing, if they appear, I'm going to put them on the agenda, or I'm going to ask you
So when you
to
get
put them on the
responses back,
agenda.
you put them on.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
so, it was just, we were putting in the same things and didn't have any updates, so we removed it.
That's, yeah, so that's exactly the wrong way, because we were putting things in, we weren't getting anything done, nothing's happening, so we take it off the agenda and stop talking about it. I mean, this is very frustrating, because we're just not getting anything
Just tell us
done.
what you want on there,
I-
as
I'd li-
opposed to
I'd-
having things that have no updates.
I'll tell you all these things that should have updates. We should know where that manhole contract is. We issued a contract months ago. I have no idea, and neither do you, whether it's even started or scheduled. In our closeout with the commitments, we had a big discussion about line jetting.
That's been done.
It's been done?
Yep, that was just
And it
completed.
wasn't possible to do the video on, because one of the things we wanted to catch was doing the video on Elizabeth Street.
And they couldn't do it with the same equipment. I tried. I wanted them to come.
And they wouldn't give us a quote for different equipment, or?
Well, and this is where we're losing Jimmy Bro, and he has been our contact. So this is this is Jack kind of issues where we're requesting things in the field.
Well, no, they're not
And
jack
he's
issues,
lost.
they're sewer issues. They're not jack issues. Yes, they're operation issues,
Right.
but we got to make sure the operations does their job, or else our customers don't get served.
Go on to the list.
The John Street contract, that was the thing where they had told us 13 grand, we said make them a 10K offer with the held over funds. Are they going to do it for 10 grand?
I'm gonna defer to Joe. Joe and Jack are,
I haven't heard anything. I'll follow up.
Mass Ave manhole list.
That's been going on for a while.
But I don't want to put you in the middle there, Joe, and I know it's not a simple answer, but at some point, if we're not getting what we need from operations, then we need to go to Heather and say, we're not getting what we need.
I'll set up a time with Jack.
Okay.
He works Fridays, right? He's not closed Fridays. Every other Friday off from work. I'll set up, I think next Friday is my next one. I'll set up a time, and I'll go in there, and I'll kind of hash these things out. Send me an email, though, of
Okay.
the stuff that you're concerned about.
Will
A lot
do.
of it is Jack stuff, so I'll go in there, and I'll set it down. Me and him have been meeting to sit down for a while anyway.
How much time does he get to focus on sewer?
We have a percentage of his salary, so whatever.
15%.
15% of his time, I would say, is kind of, I don't know if, I wouldn't say the word dedicated, but it kind of is, because we pay 15%
Yeah,
of his salary. So
you know,
15%?
I know he works more than 40 hours, but even if it was only 40, it's 6 hours a week. That's not insignificant. It's almost a day a week.
Yeah, it's a good amount of time. So I'll bug him. Me and him have been talking about
Okay.
getting together anyway, so.
Thank you, Joe.
I'll send me that list, and I will,
Will do.
set up a meeting with him.
Okay.
I'll get in there. I have a meeting to do it anyway.
The last one I think is on my agenda list was this, the annual permit for grease trap.
Yep.
Not only the instant, you know, what's happened that I think is not right, but we should just talk about. But there's a general question regarding, are they, maybe in the right terms, are they transferable?
I'm not sure what you're talking about, Carl.
The permit. So we issue a
Okay.
permit, like Agliama is a good example, right? Are they transferable? Sean Patrick's just sold, and I know there was a meeting, you guys met with him, right? Does the new owner get a new permit? Or does he take over the old permit and all the fines associated with it?
I would say with like what they do with liquor licenses, they have to come in front of the Board of Selectmen to change ownership or management for that type of license.
Should be.
I would think it's the
Yeah.
same.
We don't have a policy. We should, you know.
Ugly Almond was a
Is there a law?
landlord-tenant issue. That was a landlord-tenant issue.
Yeah, but.
Right.
But eventually, it transferred to a new owner.
It does kind of,
And they got, and the new owner, he didn't physically pay it, but the new owner got penalized in his fee because the old owner wasn't compliant. That ain't
she
right.
paid the incremental.
Yeah.
The old owner
right.
paid
But
it.
it should, anyone who pays the bill should be who the bill is addressed to.
Yes.
And I think I was totally appalled that that happened, and he put pressure on the
Yeah,
person
which
that
is,
paid.
I agree with you, but that's a my subject is, we don't really have a policy on when ownership changes, like you say.
there's nothing in our town bylaws, just a general permit thing, not specific
I
to
don't
sewer?
think so. Because even the selectmen, it's, it's
Oh, yeah, liquor.
whatever that great
Yeah, they do the
crazy
liquor
word is,
stuff. But I
victular
bet you Bob
license.
Ebersol would
Fiddlers.
know if there's
Fiddlers.
something within the bylaws that's general to permit.
I think we should have a permit for any permit we have, that there should be a policy on that.
No, I know, I don't disagree with you, but I'm just saying, I don't know if there is already something in like our town bylaws that goes over permits.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or if that liquor license thing, I mean, they have a specific liquor license policy, but
Well, they just did
do we
Mickey,
need
they just
one?
did Mickey Shea's. That was just a transfer.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was transfer.
They didn't, nobody's come to us and asked for a permit
Okay.
for their grease
They
trap.
haven't gone to the BOS either, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they went for the
the liquor license.
transfer of ownership.
But not for the sewer stuff, so.
No, not sewer stuff. They wouldn't go there, but.
All right,
So-
I will try and get an answer to it.
Good question, Carl.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm
what-
done. Thank you for bearing with me.
Yeah, it's all good stuff.
Oh, we're good.
I'm gonna consider most of that agenda items, so we'll open it back up to public comments if anyone has any. Okay,
There's one, we finalized the Sean Patrick's, we stopped finding him.
Yes. Yes,
stop the accumulation of the fine.
of the 25,
Right.
right. And then he's going to be pumped in 3 months,
Up to 3 months, okay.
right?
So I don't know if it's so much public comment, but Barb suggested make it public comment. I think it should have been an agenda item. The Open Space Committee has to update their plan, or else we can't get grants. So they're feverishly updating it, and I didn't even know that there was a section in there about sewer. And
The
I
open
think
space?
Barb might have said, if you haven't sent it out, you should send it out, because I learned something about it, about the beginning of the sewer, and it's interesting, but it's very, very out of date, and it just needs to be,
Yeah, there's a note on here
It
that
was
you wanted
attached
you wanted
to your
Brandon to come
email,
in?
so I couldn't see what he was sending you.
Brandon Kiebe?
Kibbe.
Kiebe, you wanted Brandon Kiebe to come in, is what I
No.
have on this.
No, he
request from
came
Brandon
to, he
Kibbe.
came to me,
Okay.
for whatever reason, he came to me and asked
Because
if
you were
I could
chairman for
update.
like 10 years?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. And asked if I could update it. And I said, yeah, I'd be happy to, but then I said, wait, no, maybe. I'm not going to update anything until authorized, or because somebody else might want to do it.
So do you want to put that on the next agenda?
Um,
So you read through it and everything?
Is there?
I read through what's there.
urgency
It's
here?
not a lengthy, lengthy thing, and but it needs to take us from, it kind of ends with that we're going to do a comprehensive wastewater plan,
Do you know when their deadline is?
the end of September.
All right, so can you put it on the September 11th agenda? And Carl, can you make any update you want to make on it, so you can kind of
Okay,
bring the as-is and your opinion of should be?
yeah, okay.
Can you,
Will do.
Take time?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you don't,
no, I'll
we'll
make
just-
time.
We'll just do it at the time, at the meeting, it's up to
Yeah.
you.
and if you could forward what because he said attached find, and there wasn't.
Oh, and I didn't forward?
Right,
Okay, yeah.
so if.
Yeah, it is
so I can
interesting
see,
reading.
And then I'll send it
Yeah.
out.
It's got words like, they discovered that the Fitchburg, that they were connected to Fitchburg in 1990 since 1900-something.
Dear. Oh, dear.
Any other public comment from the board or public? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I didn't make the motion.
So moved.
So moved.
Just a second, all right.